Welcome to Let's Talk About Gay Stuff.
Let's talk about gay stuff.
Gay people. The podcast where we talk about gay stuff and discuss the week in LGBT. Let's try that again.
Are you down with LG?
Do you hate that now too?
And discuss the week in LGBT plus history. We are Thomas.
Tony.
And Kendall.
And this week we're reviewing the week of August 25th through August 31st. And we'll discuss Michael Jackson, Kinsey, and the Wizard of Oz premiere. So Alfred Kinsey, that is, just to clarify.
Kinsey Scale.
Yes, the Kinsey Scale. So, all right. So you guys ready to talk about gay stuff?
Yes.
All right. So what's going on? What happened? What's happening this week since we've last chatted?
Pretty good week. Our friend Dixie Rex performed at drag competition last night, which was pretty awesome.
Drag it on? Bring it, drag it on.
Drag it on 3.
Drag it on 3.
Yeah.
All right.
Drag it on, I'll tell you that.
She drug it. So Dixie wrecked.
She dragged her balls across.
You can follow
the
her
man's
at
forehead.
Dunk, kind of. but
actually, by the time this one airs, hopefully she's still going strong. But the competition ends. When does the competition end? So through the middle of September, we'll see. So you can go cheer on Dixie and any other local Houston drag queens at Drag It On 3 at Guava Lamp. So it was cool though. Dixie has been pulling it out, bringing out her, not her. She tucks. Actually, I don't think she tucks, but she's been pulling out some good, strong performances. So
She just had it castrated, so she doesn't have to talk.
yeah. That was her. Well,
And
she was into
uses a
that.
prop.
She did bring a lot of props, though. I mean, last week she brought out a dildo and gave it a blowjob on stage after swinging it around. It got a lot of excitement.
It was
This
her
week she
mother's
brought a
idea.
damn repertoire of
Oh,
dildos.
this year she brought a BBC dildo and had the host all.
Ugh.
I think that's why she got saved, just because she was like, "Hey, if you're gonna bring that back again next week, it's like, hey."
Right.
And then of course,
Lady Bunny's like,
Tony was like, "Is that
I
dildo
was-
single?"
I was fighting to get to that stage, but nobody'd let me up there.
It's like you got to find your place, girl.
You
So,
wanted your dildo back.
I know.
yeah.
I
So
need it back tonight.
It
well,
keeps falling out.
it keeps falling out. How many dildos do you have? Remember that? Never mind.
Yeah, the dildo you got me.
Anyways.
Yeah, what'd you call it? What was that? Your dildo's name
Crystal.
again? Crystal.
Crystal.
Well,
man.
because you got me a bargain bin dildo, and on the cover it was this 80s woman in a pink bikini,
Shit.
huge hair,
Big blonde hair.
holding this thing, and the bottom would pop off because it's actually a vibrator, and batteries would just fly out.
It was
And I was
possessed
trying to get to know it.
in a biblical
So
sense.
finally, I threw it away, and someone found it. I can't remember what family member.
Found it in a they used it in a biblical sense.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Nice. So it was blue, wasn't it? You always like that
Started
one.
out blue.
That one's too big. Then it was red. Oh, it changed
Blue
colors.
Market basement dildo that couldn't keep the batteries in.
And
I
then
think
you got
it-
me that tiny one because I was like, Crystal's too large. And then you got me one that was basically
Like a
pinky
pinky
size.
finger.
Yeah, and you didn't.
But I never used any of them
Well, it got lost somewhere, but we don't know. Anyways,
when we were cooking.
so beware of the bargain
That's
bins.
I think it was in the
stir.
dip.
Yeah, yeah. He used to use that as a stir for the spaghetti. So hopefully you
shit
guys
stir.
didn't eat that.
Oh my God.
Dun dun dun. So last week we had some questions that we answered a question from one of our listeners, and she had a couple questions. So we're gonna do it, and maybe we'll answer, I guess, the second question that she had.
Yeah, so one of our listeners, Jan, reached out to us. So she had a question. She wanted to know how does a straight woman who loves gay culture and who always has gay friends fit into the gay community? I often feel guilty because I love the gay party, but I haven't faced the discrimination and hate that many or most gay men have. So she just wants to know, how do you fit it? I mean, in my opinion, just, be yourself, be understanding. I don't really think you should feel guilty about not facing discrimination. Being a woman, maybe she's faced discrimination of her own in some sort or whatever. But I don't know. We were kind of talking about this earlier. We recorded a quiz show episode, and we were talking about, I don't know, how, sometimes straight people can be kind of annoying as far as, oh, you're gay, I have a gay friend, maybe you guys should meet. It's like, okay, well, that doesn't necessarily, like, all gay men aren't compatible,
We'll try to make it work. I mean, at least for a night. But
Yeah,
You
exactly.
found out the hard way.
I know. Still finding out. But I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on how to be a good ally?
I say don't overthink it, Janet Banana.
Yeah, just be yourself.
Be yourself. There's discrimination against straight women within the gay community, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Gays can be very misogynistic because
and very discriminatory. We talk about it all the time.
Yeah, and we're all guilty of it in this room, especially you, Tony. Just kidding. But
Tony's probably the least
at
about
the
of
gay
all of
bars,
us here.
I like everybody.
well, here's the thing.
You'll take
It's kind of double
any way you can get it.
because
Hello. That was also a tool that Dixie used, a double edge.
All right, Jan, it's about Jan right now.
It is about Jan.
I see you threw me off.
Oh, I'm
What
sorry.
were we
Come
talking
on,
about?
girl. You're talking about
anyway,
being
yeah, you're just be an ally, but like I said, don't overthink it. I can already tell you're an ally, and the gays have their own problem with the way they treat straight people in general, especially women, because we all complain about, oh my God, the gay bars are full of straight women now. But 20 years ago, it was like straight people are mean. They don't want anything to do with us.
Right.
So it's a balance that both sides need to kind of work with. We need to get used to the fact that we need breeders to make more gay people. You know?
It's true.
Just kidding.
No.
But
No, there's science.
you're already being an ally, I can tell, just by caring, first of all. You have a right to have gay friends and to be... I think we talked about it last episode. We need allies or nothing gets accomplished ever.
Right.
You know, because we're just a tiny part of the electorate. So I would ask...
Who you
the
calling
best
tiny?
ally is just to think about where your vote goes. And if you love the gays that much,
Or just
please
to-
don't vote for people that are...
Or speaking of,
Or just in day-to-day life. I mean, if somebody's bad-mouthing gay people, stand up to them.
Call them out.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's important. I mean, as long as you're not treating your gay friends as an accessory, which I think was kind of the feeling that you got like in the early 2000s when it started to become more acceptable to hang out with gay people because of Queer Eye. I think you mentioned
Pocket
before.
gay.
We were a fad. And
Yeah.
Before we were just a fag.
We were, yes, but we were an accessory, right? And so as long as you're not introducing, people as your gay friend or I like you for a gay guy or those sorts of things are not helpful. It doesn't sound, I mean, obviously, Jan, if you're asking a question like this, seems like you're very thoughtful and I don't think, that's an issue you have, but I think you do see that in the community where people like they want to be the hag or what are the terms that the straight women get for being
Fruit fly.
fairy godmother,
Fag hag.
hag.
Yeah.
That's the word. Like people don't like being called a hag, right? Everyone wants to be a fruit fly or a fairy. I guess they want to be a fairy
Well, here's
godmother,
the
huh?
thing.
Some people don't want to be anything.
Well,
but
true.
Yeah.
Well,
But
now
then
that
some,
you say that, we talk about...
but some love being a hag. They want
Well,
to be.
and we say don't talk about gay people as like they're an accessory to your straight life, like this is my gay friend. Yet we use terms like hag and fruit fly as if like this is my
Yeah.
straight.
Although
Here's my designated straight female friend.
Yeah.
I feel like more so that people our age, Kendall and Tony, like would use those terms more often because that's
Early
kind of how
20s.
it was, right?
Especially the hag,
yeah,
yeah.
but I don't think like Spencer and Chris like they identify with their female friends because it's kind of more
Yeah.
in high school you had gay,
just friends,
you
yeah.
were just friends. Like
They don't have, to be honest, friends.
I mean, Spencer does.
Yeah, that's true.
his mom. I'm kidding, just kidding.
Only the ones in his head.
Dixie's friend is Chris, and Chris's friend is Dixie. So
But they're never at the same place at the same time.
yeah,
They hate each other.
that's
So thank you, Jan. I think that's a very good question, and we appreciate
Yes,
it.
but you talk about like
Jana Banana.
you talk about being able to watch who you're voting for, right? I mean, pay attention to that. I mean,
Yeah, actually, it's interesting. So I read something this week where a pretty well-known gay bar in San Antonio is actually owned by an anti-LGBT person who is running for Congress.
wait, is he anti-LGBT?
Well,
Because
his political stances are
Well-
anti-LGBT.
yeah, because he's a gay man, right? I think he's a
Oh, he is gay?
yeah. 'Cause he owns a
Yeah,
gay-
but if you're supporting
Anti-LGBT.
Republicans,
I mean,
then you're anti-LGBT.
yeah, it's like Caitlyn Jenner is...
Just like today, the Log Cabin Republicans, the gay organization, endorsed Trump and said he's fulfilled all his promises to the gays.
Yeah, and it's like...
What?
And Caitlyn Jenner is a staunch Republican.
All right. So can we
And
have
it's
the debate though? Because like recently there's been the questions about. So this will be dated when this airs, but like Chris Cuomo, right, getting into an altercation with or a heated interaction with I won't say a fan, but someone, a rando, coming up to him, recording it, calling him all these slurs, and people were like, well,
calling him Frito or Fredo, or whatever it
right,
is, which I had never heard before.
So the liberals are all upset. People shouldn't be doing that. But Maxine Waters and company, like, literally were saying to the Dems, you got to fight and go, yell at Kellyanne Conway and
Chris
Huckabee
Cuomo's
Sanders.
a journalist, so
Which I agree. He's a journalist and not a politician.
sexy one.
But even still, he took a picture on Instagram recently and shirtless. Yeah, it was a gay. No, not shirtless. It was sleeveless, but he was.
His brother's the governor of New York.
He was sporting those guns. But anyways,
I'm for gun rights.
I guess the conversation, I think you can't be. I mean, you can have different opinions. You can support different people. Like to say, and maybe it's just because I like Bill Miller's in San Antonio, but to say you're not going to go to Bill Miller's anymore because the guy donates to Trump, I'm like, is that really where we're going to go?
How is that different than I don't go to Chick-fil-A? How is that different than?
I thought about that. I mean, so Chick-fil-A, clearly is going for causes that are anti-LGBT, right? I mean, that's, and you could argue Trump is that way, right? And Trump is scaling back an executive order that Obama put into place saying federal contractors couldn't discriminate against LGBT people. Recently, the Trump administration saying, hey, look, that rule doesn't necessarily apply. You don't have to be a nonprofit. You can be a for-profit, and you can have any religious purpose. And all you have to do is, you don't have to have proof that you're a religious organization. All you have to do is, if someone asks you, claim to be, and you don't, all you have to do is say, write a one-pager basically and say, yep, no, we're a religious organization. So that could apply to anyone, right? So I get all of what Trump's doing is really bad for the LGBT community, but to say you're going to start banning all these people and are they really?
Not banning, they're choosing not to give money to these people.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I just think it's a slippery slope.
I mean, I would say.
I mean, and everyone has a right to do that, right? So.
Right, yeah. I mean, my thing is if it was a little more gray, maybe. I mean, do I agree with every single issue on the Democratic side? I mostly do, but I mean, there might be something that I wouldn't. But I do feel like on this issue, I don't know that I would want to go to that bar. I mean, if his political views, and he's going to have a voice, right? He's running for Congress. If his voice in Congress is anti-LGBT, I wouldn't want to support that bar.
But I mean, is he really going to have an anti-LGBT? It depends on what you classify as LGBT issues, right? If you go and say immigration is an LGBT issue,
No,
because
I'm not saying that.
Well, I'm saying, but people, that's one of the HRC platforms, right? The Human Rights Campaign. They're saying immigration is an issue that they want to address because trans folks who are seeking refuge in the U.S., they can't, some of the laws are doing that.
Yeah.
So it becomes, if you argue that this guy's going to take a anti-immigration stance and that's going to impact trans folks, then I agree. But I mean, the guy owns a gay bar. Like, how anti-LGBT is he? Other than, I mean, that.
Well, and I don't even know anything about it. Like, basically, I just read the article, so I wanted to bring it up. But so maybe he's not, as far as strict LGBT issues. Maybe he's not. I don't know. And I do feel like a lot of business owners are going to lean towards the Republican side, and so there's something you just can't avoid. But I don't know. If I found out that immigration is kind of a gray area, maybe as far as LGBT issues, but if I found out somebody was would vote anti-LGBT, like a straight LGBT issue, not something that's gray, I would really try to not support that.
But that's the leap we're taking because he's voting for Donald Trump or supporting Donald Trump. Then we're saying, okay, well, he's anti-LGBT everything. And again, I like
even not even anti-LGBT. If as I said, I'm sure a lot of business owners are Trump, but if I knew a business owner was Trump supporting, especially if they donated money, I would not want to support them.
But
because
people aren't just mad that he's a gay person that's a Trump supporter. People are, because that issue is not with Bill Miller. People are so disgusted with every facet of what Trump is doing.
Yeah, totally agree.
I even
one
look
more
at
thing.
I
think it's beyond a gay bar owner being a Republican thing. I think it's like, dang, you're part of a minority group and you're supporting someone that's
I agree, yeah. It says a lot about you.
Literally a white supremacist, he is.
Yeah, I mean,
And this is a Hispanic guy, I think.
yeah,
Is he?
yeah. And so like I said, I get it. I understand. Will I go there? No. Will I go to Bill Miller's when we go to San Antonio tomorrow?
No.
Probably. But
Thank you,
but
Spencer.
and I guess I gotta take. And I've been having
Are you
this.
surprised about Bill Miller's being...
No, but I'm having this
Trump
debate in my head
voters.
because I don't go to Chick-fil-A because they give money to religious organizations that are anti-LGBT, whereas Trump's not necessarily doing that. But again, you argue. I mean, the whole thing about this executive order that I was talking about for all these people like, oh, my rights, my rights. This whole Chick-fil-A having a right to this
Right, it's a
Chick-fil-A bill, and
business, yeah.
they're a business. So basically, you're giving your preference to that business's rights over
Versus
individual
citizens.
rights, which
Yeah.
is insane. But that's
campaign contribution.
yeah, it's
equivalent.
But I do feel
But I have something to admit. I went without Chick-fil-A for quite a long time. And then I haven't told anybody this, but 2 weeks ago I had 2 chicken burritos from them.
this is
I do slip once in a while. So for me,
But I'm repenting right here. and I will do it
Chick-fil-A.
again.
This is like
I
gay church.
Never grew up with it because they don't have them up north.
But
And
do you
so-
forgive me, guys?
Yes, I do, because I never knew anything about Chick-fil-A. I mean, as far because they weren't up north, and then when I moved here, I was like, oh my god, Chick-fil-A. But I never was near one, so I was like, what's the big deal? And then probably like 7-8 years ago, I had my first Chick-fil-A. I was
is
like, oh, it is
delicious.
pretty good, yeah. And so I do slip up probably a handful of times a year at Chick-fil-A.
The way we talk
It's all
about it.
coming up. Thomas?
No, I don't go.
Yeah, but Bill Miller tomorrow?
I mean, I'm not.
If you're not from a specific part of Texas,
I'm
you're
undecided.
not familiar with Bill Miller. It's like... I've only
It's like
seen
churches,
it in San Antonio and
like
Austin.
it's like a Popeyes, but only in
Yeah,
San
very
Antonio.
Texas type. Like, get your coleslaw and your
fast food restaurant.
mac and
it's
cheese,
not.
and get your
It's barbecue,
Republican
fried chicken.
pride.
We used to have it all the time growing up. Every Thursday was family dinner. It was a 8-piece, 10-piece chicken with a bucket of
Bill Miller?
sweet iced tea. Yeah, it was amazing, and this loaf of bread. But it was, but yeah, I don't know. I gotta check myself on this Bill Miller thing because I don't go to Chick-fil-A.
Well,
I mean,
so all of
Never
this
did.
is
I
like,
don't care about Chick-fil-A that much. You
no.
don't like it.
like
That's why it's easy.
Papa John's is one of my favorite like pizzas, and he was very anti-Obama, pro-Trump, and so I will not go to Papa John's. And then Jimmy John's, their CEO is very pro-Trump, and so
no more
But
Jimmy
here's
John's.
my thing.
Well,
I
think how
choose
skinny we're gonna
not
get.
to go to Chick-fil-A, but if you go, I'm not gonna shame you.
yeah, I don't
That's
care.
stupid.
Yeah, I agree.
I choose not to do that.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, because they're against causes that we're not. So we're not going to Pegasus when we go to San Antonio, right?
Thank you.
Okay. Even though they
I
have
kinda
drink
wanna
specials.
go.
Oh, let's go, Campbell.
All right. Anything else happened this week? I mean, we could talk about all the crazy things Trump's done, but
Absolutely not.
I don't want to spend any more time
Kendall
with him.
averaged about 8 naps a day.
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, you with the naps.
6. Okay, God.
I'm more than just my nap
You are.
quota.
I will say this: you look 10 years younger.
Yeah, you look.
The last month versus when you were working.
Well,
That's
how
'cause you're cataract.
how old does he look now? All right.
Anyways.
All right. So
Anyways.
before we get into our kiki, hey, are you a small business owner trying to do it all? Take marketing, for example. Nowadays, your business has to have a Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn account. Who has the time to take pictures, write posts, and get them posted online, let alone like, comment, share, and respond to followers? Don't worry. Economy Works is here to help. Let the Economy Works Talent Network help you do marketing so you can grow your business. Economy Works. When we work, the economy works. Woo! Find out more at economyworks.com. All right, so we're ready to get into our first topic.
What is it?
Our first topic is Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was born this week, August 29th, in 1958. So we could argue whether
By the way, Madonna was born.
on the
Her birthday's-
16th.
Yeah,
August the 16th.
of 1958.
Yeah, it's a
And
big
to
year.
me, I was born in '82. Those are the biggest icons, music icons ever for me.
Right.
As someone of my small, short life.
Really got his popularity in the 80s, right? I mean, he started with the Jackson 5 and then released his first solo album in 1979, but all those big hits from it, from that album, Off the Wall. So Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, Rock With You really became popular in the 1980s. And so he was one of those pop icons with Madonna, the other one of the 80s, I would say, Prince. Come on, think a little harder. Whitney.
Oh, wait.
Whitney Houston.
Whitney
Cher.
to me is more '90s. But
Really?
Yeah.
I mean,
know she- but Bodyguard came out in the early '90s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the big hit.
She developed a crack habit in the '90s.
She did. She developed a Bobby Brown habit. Yes. So Michael Jackson was born. Like I said, he started with the Jackson 5. In the late 70s, he released his solo album. The big hit, the big album was Thriller, released in 1982. And he won 8 Grammys for that. Over the course of his career, he had 13 number one hit singles on the Billboard top 100 charts, and 6 number one albums. 10 albums total were in the top 5 hits. So Thriller was his biggest hit on the charts for 37 weeks. Famously known for that moonwalk.
37 weeks.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
that's great. Almost
I
a full
love
year.
that red jacket in the video.
That video wasn't it like 6 minutes or something? It was
It was
awesome.
revolutionary because
Yeah.
that was a new art form. Music
Oh, yeah,
form,
music-
the
yeah.
music video, and he did it. He kind of made it into a mini movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he and Madonna
that
really.
was probably his most iconic.
Yeah, they really shaped the music video, which is weird because that's all I've ever known, right? I mean, we came up during that age when we were about 4 or 5 when those things started to happen. So that's really all we know in terms of music videos, right? So I can't imagine a world. I mean, I don't know a world without music videos.
MTV was a big deal. Like, I loved watching MTV and the music videos. I feel like most people did too.
Well, and there was something naughty about watching it.
Oh my God, yeah. So I remember like certain parents would not allow their kids to watch MTV.
Mine.
Yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah, no, I was watching it with my mom was younger, so my mom in the 80s was in her 20s, so she was watching the VMAs, and I remember watching Madonna like that when she was rolling around the floor for Like a Virgin. Like I have a very crisp memory of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, Michael Jackson really started to he gained a lot of traction. He was popular before, but gained a lot of traction because of the stuff he was doing on videos. Of course, the big move was the moonwalk that he did when he was performing Billie Jean in 1983.
Sound too.
Yeah.
Like no one before or after sounds like Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
He developed his own dancing style. Men were dancing like that.
Yeah.
No.
You know, the only person I think that's danced like him since, in terms of like known for being a singer and dancer, is Beyonce. To me, Beyonce is kind of the female Michael Jackson.
Yeah, I would say maybe. I mean, the ones that were like, are they going to be the next MJ? Were like Usher and Justin Timberlake. I mean, Beyonce's got the dance moves, but she doesn't like. MJ would do it. It was free flow, right? I mean, at least that's how it was come across.
He was a perfectionist. All that was choreographed to a T.
Right, but I guess Janet to me, I mean, Beyonce to me has a mood more like Janet in terms it's a very crisp, choreographed thing. And, I mean, what you're saying, I hear you, is Michael was choreographed as well. It just seemed a bit more
I feel
natural.
she's a little less unique.
I'm not
And
saying
I
they're
feel like
exactly the
Yeah,
same.
yeah,
I feel
I'm
Michael
just
Jackson
saying
was very unique.
the iconic nature
Yeah.
of it, and the fact that her whole releasing an album, like one long album with all the videos at once. I mean, she does groundbreaking stuff like he did. That's
Someone's when I
like,
first
blech.
yeah, he's a part of the Beehive.
But that was back in Destiny's Child days.
Yeah.
When I was just a child.
When you were just a child. MJ got his popularity in the 80s and 90s with hits like Bad, Man in the Mirror, Black or White. He had a Super Bowl performance, halftime show in 1993. Did the big duet with Janet, Scream. I mean, that was a big deal because the video was kind of out there. It was very futuristic. And I would say that's one of the few videos that he has that still holds up to. Like, I can watch that video today and I'm like, that's still a really good video.
Yeah.
But that was an important video because there was all these rumors at the time that Janet and Michael were the same person. So they
What? Really?
Yeah. And so they did that together. I guess they were thinking MJ was doing drag as Janet. But anyways, which gets to some of the speculation about his why we're talking about him today and in terms of this gay podcast, right? He had his final album that was released in 2001, Invincible, and then his career started to really kind of go downhill from there. I mean, he was a celebrity in all sense. I mean, I think like someone like Lady Gaga tries to, like, when she talks about the celebrity and who she wanted to be, it's people like Madonna, MJ,
She
Judy
bought a bunch
Garland.
of his famous outfits.
I think that
she
jacket
did.
you guys were talking about, and I think she had his bed.
Oh really?
Oh God. Burn.
No, and the glove. I think but some
Probably a
big
bunk bed.
big things.
A race car bed.
Probably. Of course, she was married, right? So, I mean, there was always this speculation of, is he gay? Is he straight? I mean, he tried to, quelch some of that when he married another icon, or at least the daughter of an icon,
Yeah,
Elvis
Elvis
Presley.
Presley's daughter.
Which he married her because he came up with the name King of Pop. Like, he started calling himself that.
Oh really?
Because he modeled himself after Elvis. To him, Elvis was the biggest celebrity of all time, who was the king of rock. And he started telling journalists that he was the king of pop. He was very good at secretively pushing his own image, like making himself into the biggest icon of all time. When Britney Spears gave him the Millennium Award from MTV, he said, "Thank you for giving me the Michael Jackson Millennium Award." Like, on the spot named it, and it stuck.
Well, he thought it was a Lifetime Achievement Award or something like that. Yeah, he definitely misconstrued it. I mean, that was one of the things that they folks cite as kind of the down, like his odd behavior started to look really out there. Like it was out in front of us.
Which is why we love him. This is why you can't. It's a train wreck.
Yeah.
Like, what is this weirdo doing? It's the same thing. Why Lady Gaga, who is a student of pop culture history, when she came out, she knew exactly what she was doing. I'm going to be weird. I'm going to be mysterious, kind of. I'm going to be controversial.
Yeah, because I remember, I don't know if you remember this, when he was like vacationing somewhere and he put his baby over the handrail for a minute. I mean, that was on the news for like 4 days
with
straight.
a blanket over its head.
Yeah.
Yeah, something.
And his name was Blanket.
Blanket with a blanket over his head over the rails.
Blanket?
Yeah. Which is who he had 3 kids, right? So Lisa Marie Presley married in '94. In '94, he and Michael and Lisa Marie had that infamous kiss on MTV. They opened the MTV Video Music Awards in '94 where they kissed because people were like, "Are they really married?" And they had a disgusting kiss that you can see on YouTube if you like.
That would be a weird couple. I like. She's kind of odd to me. She's an oddball.
You used to love Lisa Marie.
I still do.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have anything against her, but she is kind of odd, I think.
Why do you hate her again?
I don't hate her. She just seems like a bit odd to me.
Yeah,
she is odd, but so am I. And you show up every Friday to film.
She's. I mean, imagine though being like the daughter of Elvis Presley until Michael Jackson was the most iconic person, and then all they do is talk about. You can't go anywhere without people. I mean, people were obsessed with Elvis Presley, and then you're always seeing his image everywhere.
She probably did it for herself too, to get away from. She will forever be. This is Lisa Marie Presley, Elvis Presley's daughter.
Yeah,
she's probably like, I'm going to do my own stuff.
Yeah. And
speaking of, Madonna in 1991 or 1990 asked Michael Jackson to accompany her to the Oscars when she went, it was a big deal, and she performed there because she was in Dick Tracy. But she was using Michael Jackson.
Oh, she used everyone that was hot. She would do. I mean,
genius.
Yeah. Michael Jackson, Warren Beatty, Ricky Martin. She tried to date, all those
Dennis
things.
Rodman.
So Dennis Rodman. They divorced. Lisa Marie and Michael divorced in '96. He remarried Debbie Rowe in 1996. So later that year, they divorced in 1999. I mentioned Debbie Rowe because Michael had 2 children with Debbie, Prince and Paris, and then later. After that divorce with Debbie Rowe, he did have another child, one child, Blanket, that was born via surrogate. So,
okay. So it was just his baby. I mean,
yeah. So
but they don't really live together. I don't think. They think they had an arrangement.
Yeah.
You give me eggs.
Right.
But none of the kids look like him.
Well,
Michael Jackson was born a very
dark complected boy.
Dark-skinned black man. I don't even think he's a sperm donor.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So I mean that's part of the controversies around him. The other controversies when he in the 80s he had signed that PepsiCo deal, and then while filming a commercial he burned himself, which is kind of what spurred all of the skin issues as well as kind of some of the plastic surgery
because he was burned during the commercial.
Yeah, so his hair burned, but he started, and I guess maybe he had some other bodily injuries, and so he started to look at plastic surgery options, and so that's where it kind of started the spiral. Although he maintained an interview with your friend Oprah, Kendall, that he didn't have any plans. Yeah, but obviously you look at the pictures and a lot of things happened to him.
Tony.
So he also had, in that interview with Oprah, he talked about
they're still big though.
Some of the
he can only afford to have one of his balls reduced.
Some of the questions that were asked about him were, is he bleaching his skin, right? Because again, as Kendall was noting, that he was very dark complected
That's
growing up.
Supposedly he had vitiligo, And his one glove thing was because the vitiligo started on his hand.
Oh, really? Okay.
So he started wearing one glove to cover up the vitiligo, and then he started getting splotchy.
When you start getting that, does it spread?
Yes.
Okay.
All over eventually. So he bleaches his skin, according to,
Yeah.
people that told the story. Bleached his skin completely so that he wouldn't have spots all over.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was a big interview that he did with Oprah in '93 because he also talked about abuse from his father, which is kind of that's been
Physical or sexual?
Physical.
Okay.
Just the demanding schedule he kind of put on them.
Yeah,
and
I
all,
think he was a monster.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, I actually watched a documentary about him one time, and his family was very religious.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Jehovah's Witness,
I think the mom was very religious. The dad was very driven. Like, I think he wanted to pimp those kids out for a lot of money. And so,
Stage parents.
Yeah, he was very just, brutal as far as
he did. I mean, he worked those kids day and night, really hard.
The original Kris Jenner.
Yeah, I mean, he worked them hard. They got signed with Motown early days, and then they broke with kind of the famous record producer Berry Gordy, and then Joe Jackson, the dad, and Berry Gordy had a falling out because Joe was like, my kids can go make some more money. So they went off on their own and produced their own albums. So talked about the abuse from the father. Also talked about the allegations, which I think to me kind of plays into this whole, why do we talk about him on a podcast that talks about LGBT issues, which is the allegations about sexual abuse. And I think that's kind of the biggest controversy around Michael Jackson. And then with the documentary that recently came out on Netflix,
Have you all seen that,
on
by the way?
HBO.
I have not.
Yeah.
So sad.
Really?
Do you have HBO? No. Do you have a television?
I do, but I don't really watch it.
Do you use the internet?
Are you homeless?
I do. Yes.
How do you?
Yes.
He does all this research at the library.
Tony will never say no for you gentlemen out there that are desperate.
Yes.
So in 1993, that's when the allegations. Well, early 90s, the allegations were coming out.
Oh, I wasn't born yet.
He settled on the case where a 13-year-old accused Michael Jackson of fondling him during sleepovers. Again, he maintained that he was innocent in several interviews that he had about that.
Why'd you settle?
Right, he settled. So, but that said, he went on to continue to be popular throughout the 90s and early part
to
of
this
2000s.
day, unfortunately.
Yeah. And so then in
do you mean,
2000,
I don't want to say unfortunately.
Yeah.
I take that back because I do love his music. Sorry to step on your toes.
Yeah, I know.
The whole controversy, should we never play his music again? Like, you can't take him out of existence.
Yeah, I agree. It's like,
I still love his music.
Yeah, I agree.
And I do think he was a child molester, and
I do
because
too,
he was
yeah.
so damaged, he's a terrible person because of it. But to say you're going to boycott a dead person's music, what's the point?
I agree.
What are you getting out of that?
I honestly do believe that he probably did do something to those kids, and I honestly wonder if it didn't stem from what he went through. I don't know, but it's like a super overbearing father, super religious, did something happen there?
I think he was deprived of his childhood because he had to work. He had a job at a very young age. He was always, at the Neverland, and he was obsessed with Peter Pan, who never aged. And I think because he was so obsessed with childhood that he never had, that he was attracted to children.
Yeah, good point. Because I do feel, if somebody has that much pressure on them at that young of an age, you never find out. You can't go through life figuring out who you are. You're just in constant under pressure to perform mode from the time you're a young kid.
Yeah, I think some celebrities, if they're childhood celebrities, they kind of freeze in that time frame because especially if you're really popular. Britney Spears, an example, right? You're just in this bubble and you're never really allowed to grow because you're working all the time and everyone surrounding you is like, you're great, you're awesome, you're wonderful. And I mean, with Michael, a lot of the things that the allegations that were made against him, I mean, folks just kind of dismissed. They said, "Oh, he's just a kid. He's Peter Pan." And then, but if you think about it, like that was just excusable. Like he regularly and in interviews he acknowledged, "Yeah, I have kids sleep over, and it's just innocent." And I mean, there was a 2003 interview when allegations were surfacing again that he said, "Yeah, I have kids. I have kids sleep over. What's the big deal? We're just having fun."
Yeah.
And then he was trying to make people feel bad because why are you trying to make this innocent interaction?
Honestly, if you're a child molester, you have to be manipulative and a gaslighter, and you have to be able to lie convincingly. So those same traits to get someone's parents to trust you to watch your kids and to get the kid to sleep in your bed and all that is also the same traits you use to deny it. What are you talking about? No, stop.
Yeah.
Because there were like a lot of friends defended him, right? Like,
Oh yeah, there were a ton of people.
And people turned on Oprah because she interviewed the accusers in the last year and said, "How dare you?"
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dead man and all that, which is
Well, just in that context, right? Even one of the guys that was featured in this Finding Neverland, who's accusing Michael Jackson of molesting him, testified in 2005 saying, "Oh no, he didn't do anything to me." Along with famously Macaulay Culkin and a bunch of other people testified on Michael Jackson's behalf. And come to find out, like I said, this one guy that's featured in this documentary.
He just wanted money.
Well, that's that. Well, the allegations now are. Well, the guy's an adult now. I mean, he's in his 40s. He's our age. But he is. They're saying that's what his estate's saying. I mean, they actually released their own documentary within the last few weeks, kind of countering the claims. And they're saying, these guys are doing it all for money. But if you look at the documentary, I mean, that's what everyone. I mean, most people who watch that.
Wade Robeson does not need Michael Jackson money. He's one of the most successful choreographers ever, who ironically, as we talk about it,
and he
was Britney Spears' choreographer. He was obsessed with Michael Jackson as a child. Michael Jackson met him in Australia and invited him over, and they had slumber parties all the time. It's very believable. And when you watch these interviews...
it feels believable, yeah.
When you watch the interviews of these two guys that agreed to tell their story on this HBO documentary, you just see such pain and like they're the greatest. Give them all the Oscars if they are lying. Okay. And it's so detailed and they corroborate each other's stories.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's all very sad, but I personally think he was gay.
I do too.
Yeah.
I wonder if he... I do think he was gay or somewhere on the spectrum, like some sort of, like bisexual or something. And but he probably was just so ingrained in his religious upbringing that he just couldn't come out. Or maybe he was worried about losing his career.
I think all of those are factors, right? I mean, he was under the pressure. He was raised the way he was. He was always working. Didn't really. I mean, if you're the most popular person on the planet, there's no way you can have a really a productive relationship, especially when you have your own mental issues. And
it's hard to be famous as an adult.
Yeah, I guess I
break a normal grown-ass man.
Look what it did to you when you were approached by some fans of the podcast.
Well, I thought they were joking.
But I guess one of the things I wanted to just discuss here, because we mentioned this in a couple of episodes back, where we were talking about priests and being gay and molestation, and just because someone's gay does not mean they are more prone to being a child molester. And I think there are some some people that think that right.
Molesters seek out children is my thing.
Yep.
So
yeah.
It's not that gays are more likely to be.
Yeah, I mean, I would never have any interest.
No,
it's like.
But I think, child molesters are. I think so. We'll go to the Catholic Church, for example, and even Michael Jackson. Like, you are so repressed. Like, you're being taught to live a certain way. Like, you don't know how to properly express yourself in a sexual way, which is a human thing, right? I mean, we're all sexual beings.
Yep.
And so if you don't know how to express that properly, you're going to do some misguided, even in the case of child molestation, disgusting things. And again, I think it's just important to kind of note that gay people aren't molesters, because that's the again a takeaway when you think about Houston and the bathroom bill, right?
And a lot of people just think, oh, gay people are child molesters. Yeah, right.
And so that stereotype feeds into a lot of the laws that are out there. It's like gays are out to come take your children, right? Going back to the bathroom bill that was being proposed, or the Equality Act that was being proposed in Houston, right? It all boiled down to this bathroom bill issue where transgendered men were going to be able to, or transgendered women were going to be able to use the same restrooms as what's the right term, cisgendered women, right? And so, and it was like, oh, these men are going to go in and prey on your little girls, and it's like, well, no, that's not how this works.
Well, think of the logic of that. You're going to put on a wig and a dress, try to pass as a woman, leave your house,
Yeah.
Go to Walmart.
When you can go to your
Just so
fucking
you
brother or
can go-
sister's house and go to your niece and nephew and be like, hey.
But this is what people think. I mean, this
Exactly.
is
Oh,
what
no, I know.
this
Yeah, yeah,
this is
exactly.
what perpetuates, and this is why
Yeah.
we as a community struggle in terms of getting some of these laws passed.
Right.
Straight, educated people. Some of my good friends, when that bill was going on, it's like,
Oh.
oh, I'm very uncomfortable with
I
men
have-
coming into the
yes,
women's
I
restroom.
have,
Like, this is not that issue.
Friends that are artists, super LGBT friendly, a ton of gay people, and they will even post like on coming out day or like when gay marriage was legalized. One of my friends, he's like, look, if anybody starts complaining about this, I'm defriending you immediately. This is like long overdue against the equality ordinance,
Right.
because of the bathroom issue. They're like, I don't know about people using opposite bathrooms.
This is morphed into a bathroom bill discussion. However, I just lost my train of thought.
All right, well, come on, ride that train. So,
Oh, anyway, no, I got it. We talk about gay issues on here, but there's a reason the whole we're defending trans people thing did not happen even within the gay community until the last few years, because we wanted our rights first.
Right, exactly, yeah. And
Because
I mean,
it's a majority thing.
Yeah.
The majority cares about themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
So within the LGBT, which I call, like we
Right.
talked about last week, the queer community, just because it encompasses everybody,
Yeah.
to me, that's not straight. The majority of that are gays.
Right,
So
exactly.
they're going to want, it's me first. And then we
Exactly.
can deal with your issues.
Yep.
well, they're the ones that are out and actually advocating for all these things, right? Until recently, you didn't have a lot of trans people that were out that were trying to push it. They were kind of a silent voice. So until they feel comfortable having a
Yeah.
that they have a seat at the table, no one's gonna push for their cause,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
and even when they did, like we talk about like Stonewall days and things like that, the gay people didn't really want. They're like, yeah, no.
so
Well, because if you're gay in the, let's say, 60s, and you just want basic rights,
Right.
it can hurt you to ally yourself
Oh, not only the 60s.
transgender.
That's exactly why, even though we had a lesbian mayor, there was a big debate. Do we include the bathroom clause in this equality ordinance? Because if we don't, it will have a much greater chance of passing. But the trans community was like, absolutely no. I mean, we have a lesbian mayor, and you're not going to include us. And it was a big debate.
right.
And actually, the first draft, it wasn't included. And they really fought her, and she decided to include it. And then
I think that's with a lot of the LGBT issues. Like you see, as I've kind of read and studied up on the various ordinances that have passed in different cities and states, it's like that transgender piece is always a debatable item.
yeah.
So
Look, if McDonald's can have a cheeseburger mayor, Mayor McCheese, we can have a trans mayor. Right?
Mayor, okay. Well, that maybe Mayor McCheese seems like something you'd find in Neverland there on Michael Jackson's home. Michael Jackson did have Neverland Ranch, which he did have to sign over as part of his financial woes, because in 2005, that's really where things started to go downhill for him. He had defaulted on his $24.5 million loan that he owed on Neverland Ranch and had to hand that over to another organization. Ultimately, Michael Jackson passed in 2009 of a cardiac arrest that was due to a drug overdose.
How old was he?
He was age 50.
Oh, wow.
So he was just about to launch a comeback tour before all that happened. And so, of course, in 2000, that was a big deal, right?
Yep.
Of course, it was met with some mixed reactions, because at that point his reputation wasn't the same as it was because of all the allegations against him. But he still is popular today.
Yeah.
He has had some albums released after his death. And obviously his children are becoming adults now, and so you're starting to see them enter the space. The biggest hit, I think, to his legacy was the Finding Neverland documentary that came out, and I think, to me, that's
because people were willing to be interviewed with their face.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I mean, it's a unfortunate stain on his legacy. I think the bigger thing is it's unfortunate that what he did to those children, right?
Yeah.
And those parents admit they were blinded by an opportunity to be with the most popular person on
exactly.
earth.
Yeah.
So that's.
So you said Tonties. Your name is Tonty, right?
Yes.
I don't think we
My real
formally
name
met.
is Tonty.
You think he was somewhere on the spectrum?
Yes.
The gay spectrum.
And actually, it's
Or
funny.
the sexuality spectrum?
Yeah, it's funny that you had talked about that, because there's some other things we talked about that lead into our next topic of Alfred Kinsey. So Alfred Kinsey, he died this week in 1956. He was kind of the first person to really do a lot of research and publish stuff on sexuality. And so he basically developed the Kinsey Scale, which is what we're going to talk about today. But he always felt sexuality was fluid, that it wasn't, so this was like, the 1940s, and it was, you're either gay or straight. And that was kind of the thinking. And so he just didn't agree with that. He always thought it was fluid. And he actually got into human sexuality. He was a biologist and studied the mating habits of wasps. But he just he always felt this. And so he...
Whatever you teach their own, right?
Exactly. So he founded this Institute of Sex Research in Indiana University. And what he did was, to develop the Kinsey Scale, he basically used surveys. So this institute had a bunch of people researching sexuality, and this research institute in itself, he encouraged people to experiment sexually. Because he's like, how can you write about this and understand people you're interviewing if you don't? So there was partner swapping, things like that. People just, experimenting sexually.
Sounds like a night at Club Houston.
Yes, I'm like, God, I wish I was a researcher there.
Hey, for people that aren't familiar with Club Houston, tell us everything you know about firsthand.
Like, how was it last night?
Well,
Thomas,
it's a bathhouse that it's actually, what do they call it? A men's club. So you can work out there.
Men's health spa.
Yeah, it's a health spa.
Does anybody ever work out?
People go on the treadmills and they lift weights there, I'm sure. They have a pool, hot tub, and a locker room. So
they go to Screw.
Oh, what do they?
Yeah.
They have a maze up there and a harness. I mean, a swing.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, all sorts of things.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, I wanted to get his reference down that he's very familiar with.
Yeah. So he was a researcher, and he thought sexuality is fluid. And so what he did is he surveyed thousands of people. And he published his research first in 1948, and then about males, and then in the 1950s about women. But he kind of had this 8-question survey that basically asked people, who have you had sex with? Only the opposite sex, only your same sex, opposite sex mostly, but same sex once in a while, or 50-50, whatever. And then who do you fantasize about? Who do you associate with socially? Things like that. And based on this, he kind of came up with this scale of 0 to 6. And originally, he wanted to have a scale of 0 to 30, and it didn't really say why, but I'm assuming that's just too many subcategories. But so he came up with this Kinsey Scale of 0 to 6. So if you're a 0, you are completely heterosexual, no interest in the opposite, or no interest in the same sex, and really no experimentation ever. And then a 6 is completely homosexual, no interest in the opposite sex, and no experimentation ever. And what he found was, and so you have to think, he did this research in the 1940s. So he kind of started in 1941. He published his first thing in 1948. So at the time, it was, you don't masturbate. You can go to hell for masturbating.
Right.
You can go to hell for having sex before marriage, things like that. And he, talking about Michael Jackson, and he personally felt if you wait until marriage for sex, if you delay your sexual desires beyond when they start, it affects you mentally. He felt it affects your psychology the rest of your life if you kind of delay, like if you want to start having sex but you delay till marriage and put that off.
Like, just on that note, like that's a normal part of the human function.
Right,
it's like
exactly.
hunger. It's like breathing. I mean, if you look at the laws, like the
Yeah.
ADA, the American Disabilities Act, like that is part of like a disability is if you're unable to provide some of life's essential functions. Having sex is one of those things.
And at the end of the day, we're like, animals, and we probably started procreating like when we were 13, 14, back in the day before we established all these rules. But so that's the mindset of people. And so when he developed this Kinsey Scale, it was very controversial. So and actually it's funny, it was controversial in two ways. So many people in society were like, oh my God, you are the reason we now have child molesters, divorce, all of this stuff. Like,
always looking for somebody to blame except themselves.
Exactly. So, they were like, you're the reason we have abortions, STDs, all this stuff. But he also faced, well, I guess before we get into that, so the results were, pretty much almost 50% of men had at least some sexual experiences with the same sex, even if they were
How many percent?
almost. It was 40.
Nearly half.
Yeah, it was 46%.
Wow.
Yeah, and so 12%. So like a category 3 is pretty much 50-50 bisexual. 12% of men in the 1940s. They basically fell on the number 3, which is 50-50 bisexual. 10% identified as homosexual, but almost 50% had some experience with the same sex of men. The initial results were women were a lot less, they were a little more, either homosexual, heterosexual, whatever. They experimented less. Typically women did.
Which is counter to what you think now,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
but then again, this was also in the 40s, and so maybe women were still, it was before the sexual revolution, before birth control, things like that. So maybe I do wonder if this study was conducted today, if those results would be a lot different. Right. One thing
back then, women. This is before the women's liberation movement.
That's what it
yeah,
is.
I mean, it's like early 40s.
Where women weren't allowed to be sexual at all.
Right, exactly.
Welcome
You're
to
just
the
a vessel for
welcome to
little
the
baby children.
welcome to the podcast. Tony just said that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I need a drink at home. That's all I can think about right now.
But
So get off your phone.
so
No,
the
just kidding.
another thing that came out of this is because again, masturbation was you're going to hell. 90% of men had masturbated. 85% had premarital sex. And 70% of men said they had slept with a prostitute at least once. And so...
70?
Yeah. And this was in the 40s. So there were...
Because you went to brothels.
kind of three
back then.
different controversies. Well, three major... So one of the big controversies is, oh my God, like this guy is saying it's okay to do all this. You're wrecking society, whatever.
Wrecking ass, too.
One of the criticisms of this was... Well, he didn't really sample the whole population. Like, these were, like, people that were at some point, at some degree of separation from him. So, like, at some time, it wasn't like, let's go to small town Idaho.
It wasn't a
and survey 10
representative
people.
sample.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
And so some people said, is that really all of American society? Which, my thing is, maybe the numbers wouldn't have been the same, but I think, a lot of men or women are at least interested in experimenting and things like that. So,
Well, to me, his legacy is not, are the numbers accurate? It's that
yeah,
here's someone that's presenting for the first time that you're not either straight or
Right.
demented.
yeah, yeah. And so for me,
There's
I
a
think
scale.
he is really responsible for opening up the conversation and allowing people to
Open their legs.
yes, and freely talk about. It's okay to be a bisexual. It's okay to say I masturbate. It's okay to say I've slept with a prostitute.
Huh?
What's
And-
number 6 on this scale, by the way?
Completely homosexual. Like me, picture me.
Well, you know what I think is interesting is if this is before the women's liberation movement and feminism. Just kidding.
He got his
What?
he got his
I
drink.
I am paying attention. Okay.
So here's one thing too that I honestly think, and a lot of people credit him with opening the conversation. He was like the pioneer in sexuality research. But when he came out with this, there was also a lot of backlash that said, "Oh my God, he is trying to force everybody into one of 6 boxes," and it's like he's not. He's basically saying there's a spectrum, but I mean, how can you could have infinity, right? And so, but there were a lot of people like, oh, he's trying to force everybody into either, are you a 2 or a 3? And I don't think that was his purpose. I think his purpose was sexuality is not,
It's
one or
fluid.
the other. It's fluid. And these are kind of 6 subcategories, like completely homosexual, mostly homosexual, I'll experiment. Or, no, I'm 50-50 and on. But, yeah, so a lot of controversy.
Kindle's on the spectrum, but that's the autism spectrum.
The weight spectrum. I could
Yeah.
be 200 or 130 in 1 week.
Yeah. And so his personal life, he, it's kind of interesting. He and his wife they were bisexual and they were open. And so I think,
So he was a 3?
I don't think he was a 3. I think he was more of probably a like 1 to 2. He was predominantly heterosexual. He did experiment, and I think his part of it was he experimented for the purpose of his scientific research.
Oh yeah, that's how I started.
I think
study.
no, but I
I'm
think
just-
he was like,
Hey, hon, I got to go to the prostitute because this is for the
I think
study.
he admittedly like he was
To the back-
interested
to the
in
Houston
sleeping
Club.
with men, but kind of
I go see
as
Thomas at the Houston Club.
a little bit of fun.
Research.
I think he and even his some of his colleagues said, because they were kind of like, don't really, you can't really like tell everybody what's going on in the research institute, but they did indicate that. I mean, he did experiment and he was interested in men, but he was sleeping with men as just kind of like something fun to do. It wasn't.
Wait, he was doing it for fun?
Isn't that why we do it?
I
Yeah.
was like,
But I mean, it wasn't like he was like 50-50. He was probably majority women.
So
Yeah.
six is completely homosexual?
Yeah.
What is 5? What is 4?
5 is predominantly homosexual. Incidentally, you will have heterosexual sex. 4 is predominantly homosexual, but more than incidentally. Like it's kind of a regular thing, but you're predominantly homosexual. And then the 0 is completely heterosexual. And
0? Okay.
yeah.
Would you say you're a -1 because you have no sex at all?
I'm a 6
I'm
plus.
just kidding.
Oh, there is an X, which is no sociosexual contact.
oh, that's you.
No, that's not me.
Oh.
I mean, temporarily.
Just for the last 3 years.
Yeah. Just for the last 30
What are you, Thomas?
I think it might be a 4.
What is that one?
4 is predominantly homosexual, but more than incidentally heterosexual.
Because more than incidentally. I mean,
So
I mean,
incidentally is,
But you know what, this
if I'm
is-
in the right place at the right time, I'll do it, but I don't seek it out, I think.
well, no. I mean, because I'm in a relationship, I don't seek it out. But I mean,
No, but like lifetime, you'd probably be because 3 is equal.
well,
I'm a 50-50
I think
player.
that's what I would. It's just easier to find men. That's what I've always found. Like that's just.
It is? Oh my God.
You're one
Yeah.
of those a whole people.
Yeah. I mean, because I've been in same-sex relationships for over 10 years now.
Why?
I
Because
guess
you're having the same sex.
well, unlike you and I, we never had.
Right.
That was 0. We were X on the scale. But
My body, my
Those 10
choice.
years.
yes.
X hits the spot.
So, so I would say that was probably, I don't know. I'd be in between 3 and 4, just because it's.
See, he's trying to put you in a box. You
Yeah.
have to choose 3 or 4. Okay.
So I think that's where I'd find
Well,
myself.
the way it's worded, though, what if you are open to plowing a woman, but you've never done it?
Well, then you're probably between 5 and 6.
Some of these questions are, what do you fantasize about? So
Oh,
it isn't.
okay.
It isn't only what have you done, but it's like, who have you had sex with? Who do you want to have sex with? What are your fantasies?
Are you fantasizing about plowing a woman? Have you ever
No,
had a
not fantasizing, but you know what?
Have you ever had a sex dream about a woman?
No.
I haven't either.
No.
No.
I don't think in my dreams there are no women in them. Period.
No, in high school I had dreams they were about women, but I had one about high school like the coach,
What
and
was
that was
the
really
coach?
that was awkward. I was
What
like,
was his name?
as I woke up feeling like,
So we can find him.
I don't remember what
Did
his
you wake
name
up
is.
with wood?
Tag him.
Yeah, I did. So that's why I was
Did
like,
you look at him weird the next day? Like, oh God,
I did.
can't
Yeah,
look at him.
totally. I was like, oh no.
Can't
So
look
because
at
I was
him.
it was very confusing. I mean, so yeah, yeah. So I don't know. So that's
Well, if it
that's.
were- Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's the spectrum, huh? I mean, where are
Yeah.
you on the spectrum?
6.
You're
probably.
6, but the last year I'm like, obviously I'm in a relationship, so if you take the relationship out of it, I'm like, maybe I will stick it in a woman.
You would get someone
What?
pregnant the first time.
So you would answer the question, what is your fantasy? Well, maybe.
But no, it's not even a fantasy. I'm
Speak-
like, why say I will never try it? But anyway,
What kind of fantasies are you having? Are you having
I
fantasies
don't even.
of
I'm
being
really not that sexual.
of being like in
I might be straight and don't even know it.
in a tornado and going to this whimsical land?
Well, if there were a woman I would have sex with, it would definitely be Judy Garland.
Oh,
Which brings us
She's a
to
cutie.
80 years ago on August 25th, 1939, The
that's
Wizard
your
of Oz
birthday.
came out.
80 years ago. That's your birthday.
I was already born. Tony and I were in preschool together.
Oh,
We called
cute.
him 6. So August
I don't even know
25th,
what that means.
he's 6 on the Kinsey Scale.
Oh,
So August 25th, 1939, 80 years ago, The Wizard of Oz came out, and it was a huge hit, although it didn't make that much money at the time, surprisingly. But it was an adaptation of L. Frank Baum's 1900 book, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. So it was somewhat popular as a children's book before it was adapted.
can I just question? You said it didn't make that much money in terms of relative scale, or like
No, even
like was it
barely
considered
made
a
profit
bomb?
if you take into
Oh,
so
okay.
the box office was
Was it because it was so expensive, or it wasn't a big hit
it was one of the most expensive
at the time?
movies of the time, because remember it was
Was
one
it
of the
first in color?
One of the first. They used Technicolor. Like Dorothy's shoes in the book were silver, but they made them ruby so that they could take advantage of the Technicolor
Okay, yeah.
sparkly
So that the gays would forever idolize those ruby slippers.
Exactly.
I took
Exactly.
Spence and I went to the Smithsonian Museum to go see the slippers. I was like, "Oh, you're gonna love the slippers," and they weren't there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, they're ratty, but there were multiple pairs of slippers.
Well, they weren't on display at
She
the
had, like,
Smithsonian.
4. Debbie Reynolds owned one of them, but she owned a backup pair that I don't think were ever used. But anyway, back to me and Judy. So you were asking about, was it relative? So the movie cost almost $3 million to make, and they made a little over $3 million.
Oh wow!
And if you take into the huge cost of marketing and all that, they barely made a profit. But really, the money they made was when they sold the rights to put it on television in the 50s.
Oh okay.
And that's when it was introduced to the world. But it was made because Walt Disney had made Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and it was a huge hit, groundbreaking.
That was the
movie
first
for its
animated
time.
movie, right? Or first Disney movie?
No, I
think
didn't
it was.
research all that because it wasn't really in my topic.
Well, I
You're
think
gonna
it
put me in this-
was.
but now I got
You
to
don't
be a
have to-
Snow
You
White.
don't have to know everything.
Now I got to be a Snow White expert. Okay, back
Mickey
to me
Mouse.
and Judy. Hey, keep your gay chatter to a minimum.
Oh my God.
Okay? It's about me and Judy right now.
He's been distracted this whole podcast, and now he's like, "Everyone needs to focus
I got
on me."
off my phone for this. So it was made after Walt Disney proved with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs that you can have a success adapting.
Did you say
children's
drawers?
stories.
Like the drawers on the desk here?
The drawers around your ass?
The drawers.
So Snow White, Disney made Snow White, and it was so successful. They're like, okay, where can we look for other children's books to make movies? Since this was so, which is typical. They do that now. They're like, one superhero movie comes out, and
They don't look at books anymore. They look at other movies.
Yeah,
like,
what's
how
a
can we
book?
make that movie from 30 years ago?
So they bought the rights to L. Frank Baum's book to make the movie, and Shirley Temple was actually the one the studio wanted to use, but her singing voice wasn't that great, and she had contract issues, like she wasn't available, but she was the right age because Dorothy was supposed to be, I think, 10 years old? No, she was supposed to be 13, and Judy Garland, who was ultimately picked, was 17. So Shirley Temple was their first choice.
How old
but
was
it didn't
Shirley
work
Temple
out.
at the time? Do you know?
You know what? I'm not a
didn't-
Shirley Temple expert.
Didn't do that research either. Only the best research
This
to,
is
for
not
all
a
you
quiz
guys.
show. The
Stop
quiz show is a
grilling.
different
Only the
edition.
best research for you guys.
I'm gonna stop grilling you.
If you did drag, I think you would look like Shirley Temple.
Anyways.
Okay, anyway. But that would be a completely different movie if Shirley Temple in it.
Yeah, I liked Shirley Temple in like all her movies. Like she was always like, "Oh, she's so cute."
Cute, campy.
Good chip lollipop. You know, she became Ronald Reagan's ambassador to the Czech Republic.
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah,
Mhm.
she was a big Republican. You would probably boycott her movies.
I'm
I don't
still
know,
going to
Thomas
Bill
would love her
Miller's.
movie.
Still
He's
go to
a
Bill Miller
Republican.
barbecue, but you'll-
Thomas is a Republican.
Hey, no,
He's going to be at Pegasus tomorrow
Yeah.
in San Antonio.
I'm gonna be a co-investor.
So they chose Judy Garland, who was under contract. And back then on the whole studio system, you were under contract, and they told you, with certain studios, and they told you, you're going to do this movie. You have no
yeah.
part in it. And she was 17, supposed to play a much younger person. So they like taped down her breast, and they put her on a strict diet to lose weight. She needed to lose like 12 pounds, which is a lot.
She didn't weigh anything anyway. Probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And part of her diet at 17 included cigarettes, because they thought if you smoked,
You would eat less.
well, I don't know the science.
That
I
is,
did
I mean,
research.
people
Yeah.
like people who smoked. I mean, back in
Yeah.
the day, they would do
For weight control.
for weight
yeah.
control.
Okay, so now you're an expert on smoking.
I mean, if she smokes, she pokes. Wait, huh?
What the hell was that? Is this
My
It's a
aunt
straight
said
thing.
that once. Like,
You're definitely a 3.
I was asking if she ever smoked. She goes, I tried to do it once for weight control, but she goes, I just didn't like it, so I quit.
Yeah, people who smoke. People who's when. Yeah, I remember. Again, people don't smoke that often nowadays. But I remember like
Yeah.
20, 30 years ago, like when people would get off smoking, when they'd kick
Gain
the habit,
weight.
they'd gain weight. Back in my day.
Anyways, Kendall, sorry we're stealing your thunder.
Focus on Kendall and Judy.
All right, back
Kendall
to me.
hates us.
Back to me and vicariously through Judy. So the movie was a critical success. It's one of those that it was considered like a special effects huge
For the
movie
time.
at the time.
Yep.
They used color, and I think they were smart for making it color once she stepped into
Are
Oz.
we still saying color these days?
Yeah, multicolored society.
Can't say that.
Hold on, let me read I'm reading my notes here real quick. Give 1 page. Hold on, let me get my notes. Hold on. So it turned into a gay classic. Did y'all like you, Tony, who wasn't introduced to society except in the last few years?
Right.
Have you seen it?
Had you,
I've seen it,
have you
yeah.
ever
I was
seen
like,
I was probably like high school or college when I saw it. But yeah.
Did it resonate you at all at that old of an age?
As far as the gay thing, or
Well, I say that because it's considered a gay classic,
yeah,
and some people think you learn gay culture, which you do, and you're told, let's say Judy Garland is a gay icon, so we all kind of go with it. But I remember watching it with my mom at a very young age and being obsessed with Judy Garland and obsessed with the movie as a whole.
Really,
like,
yeah.
I was just drawn to everything about the movie, and it's, to me, it's still my favorite movie of all time because of the way it made me feel.
how did it make you feel,
Sexually
Kendall?
aroused by the flying monkeys.
Ooh.
But
I
think
just
that's-
remember the witch, or not the witch, the witch, the old lady at the.
Yes, there's a witch
Yeah.
in the movie.
But then the old lady at the beginning too. That's like on the bicycle.
Oh, Thomas was in it?
Yes.
Hello.
So it became a huge gay classic to where even, have you heard of the term Friends of Dorothy?
Yeah.
Meaning the gays.
I just learned what that term was like in 2008.
And I think one of the reasons
Or
the
9.
gays love the movie so much is because it's a movie about, like we said before, a hag. If you think about it in terms of the year it came out in 1939.
Wait, are you saying the Tin Man and the Lion, the Scarecrow, were all gays?
There were gay. So
Like
when
in-
you're gay back in the day when there was no gay culture, and we've talked about this before, you look for little clues like, oh, I can identify with this. And these were rejects of society.
Mm-hmm.
And only Dorothy would be friends with them.
Right,
Only
yeah.
Dorothy would hang out with them. The Cowardly Lion at the time was considered, for the gays, gay because he self-identified in the movie as a sissy. I'm just a sissy. And a dandelion.
And he did seem kind of
D-A-N-D-Y.
Gay. He was a
Which
six.
is sad because like the scared,
kidding.
timid one was the gay one. When he should be fierce because he's a lion.
Yeah.
So I think the gays, because of some of those themes, identified with it. Maybe that's why I identified with it. But mostly I liked her shoes.
I think sometimes too, like, we've talked about this before. Like, is A League of Their Own a gay iconic movie or whatever? And I think like some of these movies people just gravitate towards, and I think
Especially back in the day when you didn't have...
yeah, and I think sometimes like if there's a strong woman, I don't know. I think gays just kind of identify with that sometimes, and maybe it was like because she was the main character or because she was friendly to these outcasts, but in your subconscious, maybe that's why you just are drawn to this movie.
Well, and in doing the research, there were some really... I'm very reluctant. I like research that says, is a little more definitive instead of like, and it's been often said that maybe blah, blah, blah. But in the research, it's like Emerald City was New York. Like you wanted to escape your oppressive
Yeah, Kansas.
gay town
Yeah.
and go to where the other gays like you are. I just thought it was a amazing movie, and I do think in hindsight that I kind of picked up on these are freaks being led by
Yeah.
The Intern is causing a lot of trouble right now.
A lot of distraction.
But Judy Garland knew her status as a gay symbol was much attributed to The Wizard of Oz. She said, and I couldn't figure out how they knew she said this, but I've heard it so many times. She said, I imagine flags being flown half-mast over Fire Island when I die, and fags singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow at my funeral.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't that what happened? Didn't they riot at Stonewall the following week after she died?
Well, you were there.
I was there. No.
You lost your good heel.
I know.
At the comps.
Oh, he didn't waste his good heels. He's like, let those drag queens do it.
I had
I'm gonna save
backup
my
heels.
Part of the reason I love the movie is because I watched it with my mom and she would put it on. So it was like a bonding moment between
yeah.
my mom. But I would cover my eyes when the flying monkeys came out.
It was scary.
But now I love monkeys. Just love monkeys.
Their monkeys were kind of scary, though. I agree.
Were you scared of that movie?
No.
No.
I watched it as an adult.
You said you saw it in freshman year.
I can't remember. I
remember watching it as a kid.
I was probably high school or college when I saw it.
I think the last time I saw it was in college, and I had a girl trying to make the moves on me, and she was like, "I'll make dinner and watch Wizard of Oz."
God. Bringing up that he's a 3 again on the
three.
Kinsey Scale.
Like when Clueless, the girl invited the guy over, and he was like not having it, and he's like, "I'm gonna go now."
I would have had it, but I was licking my wounds from a breakup, so I was not feeling it, but I should have done it
with
anyway.
a woman. You 3.
Yep. You big O 3.
So Friends of Dorothy became term for like, oh, is he a Friends of Dorothy? When you couldn't say, is he gay? It was kind of slang underground.
Yeah.
Is he a friend of Dorothy? Like, is he gay? Friends with Dorothy?
You know, Dorothy. That term comes also. It's attributed to another woman who.
Dorothy Parker.
Yep, as well.
But they think that's less likely because Dorothy Parker was supportive of gay. I don't even know who Dorothy Parker is.
She was a New York socialite who would she would stick up for her gay friends. She had a lot of gay friends, yeah. So people especially in the military, they would whisper,
Do you know when
"Are
this
you a
was,
friend
like
of
20s,
Dorothy?"
30s,
It was
40s,
before
50s?
Wizard of
It was
Oz.
before.
Okay.
But Friends of Dorothy is a term that's kind of like we can't admit that we're gay. And when you and I went on a cruise in 2008 or 2009, there was a gay. So you have this little newsletter that tells the events, and there was a Friends of Dorothy
happy
event
hour
in 2009, and then I went on a cruise a few years later, and it was like LGBTQ.
The acronyms,
event.
again.
Like they got rid of the
Dorothy.
Friends of Dorothy. Like we don't have to keep it secret.
Yeah.
But Friends of Dorothy back then was kind of like a wink, wink. Are you a friend of Dorothy?
Yeah.
In the streets, you'd be like, what do you mean who's Dorothy?
You know how I know that term? I didn't even know. You know, I'm sheltered. Didn't even know what Dorothy or Friends of Dorothy was. And so I was dating this guy. This is probably like 2008, 2009. I was dating this guy, and I was going to a book club, and I was like, oh, yeah, like it's on whatever Dorothy Street. And he goes, oh, that's funny. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, that she lives on Dorothy. Because it's the gay club was like probably like a third gay. And, or the book club was a third gay. And he's like, oh, that's funny. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh, she lives on Dorothy Street. And I'm like, yeah, what do you mean? He's like Friends of Dorothy. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Crickets.
Explain it to me.
Blank stare.
So stupid.
I know.
Thank goodness people have those
Back
podcasts now that they can they can get these things.
You know what the saddest part of that movie, though, to me, that I found out? Toto, who's a little Karen Terrier, whose real name was Terry, one of the guards in the scene, stepped on its foot and broke its leg. Its
No
paw.
way.
So she had to take a little break for a month,
Hiatus.
and they had a stand-in dog.
Aw.
They didn't put her down, did they?
No, she
Oh.
came
Broke
back
the
and
foot.
filmed the rest of her scenes.
Oh, she did. Oh, my God.
But the movie sparked...
She was under contract. They weren't going to let her go. You better.
And Terry, a.k.a. Toto, made more money a week than most of the actors.
What?
Which I'm all for Kena.
Who was his agent?
I know.
Can we still
Who's
book
the
them?
owner?
Yeah.
But the movie kind of, obviously it was adapted by this 1900 book, but we all think of Wizard of Oz as the actual movie.
Yeah.
And then The Wiz came out in 1978. Are y'all familiar with The Wiz?
No.
Tonti!
78?
1978. It was another movie. Diana Ross played Dorothy.
No way.
Oh,
Scarecrow
yeah.
was Michael Jackson.
Was it like a remake or a sequel?
It was a remake.
Oh, okay.
So it was a reinterpretation of The Wizard of Oz and all black cast, and Diana Ross was 24 at the time, which is kind of like they're taping down Dorothy's boobs. But they reinterpreted it to where Diana Ross she was a teacher, so she was supposed to be older.
Oh, okay.
And she lived in Harlem instead of Kansas. But that's an iconic movie in its own right.
The Wiz.
The Wiz, yes. And Wicked, the Broadway musical, came out in 2003, which became huge in its own right, based on The Witch, The Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah.
Wicked, blah, blah, blah.
That's why you need to go first from here on out, because you get to the end and be like, blah, blah, blah.
All right, you couldn't wait for me to stutter, so you just calm down.
Thank you. God, poor Kendall.
Poor
That's
Kendall.
mean to him.
All right. Gay bash on a gay podcast.
Imagine. That's like your dream. In a good way. Not
Well,
in a-
Tony, I honestly thought you would know more about this topic since you're from Munchkinland.
Close, but
The mayor of Munchkin City. You got my vote.
really?
He's taking all the votes.
Should I run against
Tony,
the
the
San
mayor of
Antonio?
Munchkin City 2020.
Should I run against the San Antonio bigot?
You should. You could actually.
Okay, so this was a very important movie in my life, and y'all don't seem to care. And
I want to
feel
hear.
like
I want to
don't
hear
need
why it's your.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than you
I
watch it
already
with your
did.
mom.
Why was it? I thought it was over the top. I thought I identified with Dorothy. I thought it was. There wasn't a lot of machismo in the movie that I didn't identify with. It wasn't like as a child watching Rambo or Terminator or whatever.
Yeah.
It felt more true to life to me.
Can we just so you mentioned that you identified with Dorothy. Is that something when you watched it, Tony? Did you identify with Dorothy? I say this because I was listening to a radio show the other day, and the guy was saying he was a gay man in his 50s, and he was like he was talking about all those movies he would watch like in the 80s, Breakfast Club, 16 Candles. He identified
So he's
with
a
this.
senior citizen as well.
The strong women character, like those 80s character. And I didn't, so that's why I'm like, that's an interesting.
So for me,
This is
so
Selena.
I didn't see this until later, but yes, when I was growing up, strong female characters, those are the movies that I feel like I aligned with, and I just like they kind of inspired me or something.
You were like,
so,
that's me.
9 to 5, The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas with Dolly Parton, things like that. Movies like that. If there was a strong female character, and for me, we didn't have TV, but every morning, like my mother would work graveyard, so she'd come home and she would turn on the radio. She'd kind of like shower and stuff after work, get laundry going, get breakfast going, and then wake us up. But she would turn on the radio, and it was all country music. And then we had to like take the bus. It was like 30-minute bus ride to school, all country music. And I just remember hearing like these female voices like Winona Judd, Tanya Tucker, Lori Morgan, and those just stuck out with me. And so I do feel like that's why when you were like several episodes ago, like, well, is the baseball movie
A League of Their Own.
A League of Their Own, like a gay iconic movie? I'm like, if you identified with it, or
Yes.
then
I
other
do
people
think
have
it's
too.
a gay iconic movie, but I think we need to explain why.
Yeah.
Because we're of an older, and we're not old.
Right.
All of us except Tony are in our 30s.
But and like Steel Magnolias, I mean, that was like, oh my god, it just because it's all strong women, yeah. And so I do feel like, which is kind of interesting that like, because most gay men I know, strong female characters. That's
And can we describe why I think we identify with that? It's not that we want to be women as gay men.
No.
It's that strong women, what are they strong against? The straight patriarchy of saying, you
they're
are
a
supposed to
minority
be
and they're a strong woman, and it's like we're a
feminism-
minority, and
feminism equals weakness, so therefore you will listen to me and you will. And a lot
Feminism
of gays,
equals weakness. Would say more on that.
No,
like,
I don't mean feminism as I mean like the movement as in feminist. I mean, if you're feminine because you're a woman,
especially in the 40s, 50s, 60s,
then
70s,
you are by God's nature supposed to do
be
what I tell
subservient,
you to.
yeah.
And you're here. It's kind of like Handmaid's Tale, which I watched today. Of you are here to be a carrier of my children, and you really don't have a say so in this. I mean, if you go down to, if you boil it down to the most,
and so that's why I feel like, like in Steel Magnolias, like some of those women were like the single survivors, some were like running the family. Like as I said, in 9 to 5, those women were just so empowering, and I do feel like they're minorities and look at what they're doing, and that's why I feel like we identify with them.
So, but you guys both identified with Dorothy and Wizard of Oz, even as
So
an
Wizard
adult.
of Oz wasn't like, because I saw it as an adult, and so it never kind of hit home with me. But strong female character movies, yes, definitely hit home with me.
So, like when when in those movies when the woman's kissing the guy, you're like, that's me with that.
No,
not like in a sense, but because again, the radio show I was listening to, he was like, that was me finding my Prince Charming. Not so much that he was, kissing that man, but he was just like,
Well, speaking for myself, no.
Because he was
Yeah,
like,
me either.
I just didn't identify with the boys' club of how men are supposed to be.
Yeah.
And most straight men go about their life not questioning their role. It's like men are supposed to be this, and men are in charge, and men are that. They never have they have the luxury of never having to question their own role in society.
Right, yeah.
Where that's not, the gays are like, oh my God, I like boys. What does that make me? And am I going to hell? And am I going to get killed for holding hands? Or
What's the
is my
repercussion
family
of
going to
coming out?
disown me?
Yeah,
and all that.
yeah.
It's a completely different interpretation of being a man. Just the simple act of being out of the closet, in all honesty, is you're poking your finger in the eye of masculinity.
Right.
And the patriarchy, which is therefore questioning society as a whole.
Yeah.
Because this whole society, even in 2019, is built around the man.
Oh, yeah, I agree. It's it's something culturally that
The straight man.
Yeah, the straight white man. But
In the U.S., yeah.
Yeah, because I do feel like you can't. It's like ingrained in thousands of years, or even more.
And to
of
this
culture,
day, we
yeah.
can act like, the discussions has been a little broader, but Kinsey was saying revolutionary things in the 1940s that is still not. Intellectuals, quote unquote, which is a dirty word now.
Yeah.
Might talk about Kinsey or know about Kinsey, but it's still not. Who's talking about a scale of sexuality? Still to this day, people want to know, are you gay or straight?
Right. Yeah.
We still, and listen to the last episode about LGBTQIA plus or whatever. We still are pigeonholing people and saying, what are you? An L? Are you a G? Are you a B? Are you a T? Like, I want to know so that I can judge you.
no, I don't think that's why that. I mean, just we'll go on that aside
No,
again.
it's
But
not why we do that.
But people-
it's a result of it.
People are wanting to identify as something else. They're saying, I don't fit in that box, so create another box for me, right? And so,
And by self-identifying is that you've put yourself in a new box.
yeah. But they're saying I don't have to
I'm
be
not
in
saying it's
the
wrong, but what I'm
LGBTQ
saying
box
is-
because I am something different than that. I am non-binary or whatever.
Yeah.
So those are new boxes that people are creating. So we're saying, all right.
Yes, which is great. I'm glad we're having those discussions. There is, though, repercussions to, I think, saying this is what I am definitively, and you will identify. It's almost like you have to pick what you are. And to me, it's all a spectrum.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah,
I
I kinda
prefer
agree.
to say queer. Like, what if like I said before, all of a sudden I'm like, vagina seems interesting. Am I like, wait, but I'm the G. I've been G so long in the LGBT, I think it kind of pigeonholes in a different sense. The greater sense is, yes, it does good. It's raising awareness. We're educating, blah, blah, blah. But it also says, I'm in my box, you're in yours. When I went more of like a we're all in this together crap.
Yeah.
And hopefully we're leading to a society to where you are what you are, and it's not straight versus one of these 100 definitions. A new one comes up every day.
We'll see how long that takes.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
could just elect Trump.
right. 2 steps forward,
Well, if Thomas
1
keeps
step back.
eating at Bill Miller Barbecue.
I mean,
continue
I'm
going
I'm
to the
I'm
Pegasus,
funding his
eating Chick-fil-A.
campaign.
We're
All
going
right.
to San Antonio this weekend, and we're hitting up all these anti-gay
Yes. All right. So good chat. Any parting words?
No, good podcast.
No, that's good. All right. So thank you for listening to our podcast and kikiing with us this week. A special thank you to the guy who keeps our sound in check, Spencer. Woo. Thanks for the
Spenderella.
yummy dip. That $1 million dip was good. Neiman Marcus dip, honey. All right. Don't forget this. Maybe we can put that out. That can be a post one of these days.
The
recipe, unless it's a family secret. It's a family secret.
Spencer's going to sell his cookbook. Don't be giving it away.
Secret. Strong enough for a man, pH balance for a woman. All right. Don't forget to subscribe so you can hear future episodes. Visit our website, letstalkaboutgaystuff.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Let's Talk About Gay Stuff, and on Twitter at Talk Gay Stuff. Leave us a review. Tell us what you think. And all right. And if you don't want to put it out in public, like our friend Jan did,
message us.
Yeah, you can message us, or you can also drop us a line at letstalkaboutgaystuff@gmail.com. Also, give a listen to our sister podcast, Our Spoopy Podcast, available now where you get your podcast. All right, so for another week of Let's Talk About Gay Stuff, we're here.
We're queer.
Get used to it.